Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Fortress Comic News, episode 368. I am one of your hosts, Chris, alongside my co-host here, Mike. How we doing, Mike?
Good. It is the post Free Comic Book Day episode. We do have a special guest, John Hervey, on the show. It's been over 3 years since he's been on the show last. We talked about it was it Magna was the project before?
Yeah, when he was first funding Magna on Indiegogo.
Yep.
Back in the day. And he had also had, I think, the first volume of Black Tiger out at that point.
Okay.
Now he's on like volume 3.
Yeah, so we got quite a bit of Black Tiger comics to talk about in the show. So great to have him back. It was a little too long.
Yeah, go check it out. He's a good guy.
So I didn't make it out to a comic shop on Free Comic Book Day, but I do want to point out something, Chris. In the shop in Albany, New York, I couldn't get over to, but Alex Segura was there signing who is the writer of one of the writers of the new Dick Tracy book. So that was pretty cool to see. Yeah, and Alex Segura's written for DC and Marvel and stuff. So then I was like, man, how did they get Alex Segura? So I started doing a little research. He lives in New York somewhere, so I'm guessing probably in this area. But we'll have to get him on the show sometime. I know he has his own podcast about writing and stuff. But yeah, that was cool.
Tried to see when Dick Tracy was coming out.
Yeah.
Well, when they were like first sending out reviews and everything, and I guess he's just a really busy dude.
Oh yeah, I can imagine. Because I was cool to see him signing in Albany. I just couldn't make it over there.
Yeah.
But I went to a bookstore, an actual bookstore that sold novels. But I did find, because probably for Free Comic Day, it was in the bargain section. I got this heavy duty, the Marvel Vault Visual History. This book is awesome. So I got it for $15, like a, I don't know, $40, $50 hardcover. But you can see here, it's got like old school, Captain America punching a Nazi. I just opened to that page just for you, Chris.
Not just any Nazi, Mike.
Hitler, the big Nazi. But
the Nazi.
It's a really cool book. It goes through the whole history of comics and stuff. And I know it's Marvel, and I'm not the biggest Marvel fan, but I am really interested in the history of comics.
Yeah.
Another really cool thing, in the front cover, there's an envelope. And in the envelope, it includes some replicas of some classic stuff, like the first Submariner sketch. There's a reprint of that.
Oh, cool.
There's the original Fantastic Four synopsis, like the typewritten version of the plot synopsis for Fantastic Four. There's the Marvel Convention program from 1975, a replica of that. So there's like all this old school comic book stuff. And then they have like the trading cards from the 90s. There's a Tony Stark business card. There was a comic convention giveaway in 2009. So there's a lot of like decades like memorabilia that's in the front envelope for you to like flip through too. It's really cool.
That's the kind of a coffee table book that I need.
Yeah.
Just so when people enter the house, they know what the fuck they're getting into.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it goes in between like some iconic pages, iconic characters. There's a whole section on Silver Surfer. I mean, it goes through the Golden Age, the Silver Age, up into current stuff. Well, this book came out in 2016, so there's quite a bit of, it talks about like when Falcon becomes Captain America and the new Miss Marvel and everything. It's a great book. It was such a great find because I was in a bookstore and it was Free Comic Book Day, and I was like, okay, I got to pick this up. I was pretty happy to see that. But how was your Free Comic Book Day festivities, my good man?
Good. I did my normal Saturday stuff, and then I went over to the comic shop. And I mean, first of all, it's the first year that my shop really did Free Comic Book Day correctly, like since COVID. Not to get too personal with it, but like he has his health issues, the owner that is, and then his daughter also has health issues. So he's been very wary with the whole COVID thing, understandably so. And he finally was like wanted to dive in and come back, and did it this year, but didn't go as all out as we used to back when you lived in this area.
Yep, back in the day we used to dress up and all that jazz.
Yeah, but he did have the tables out. He had some people helping out and everything, and it was fun because not only I got to go there, see people I haven't seen in a long time, talk to some people you haven't talked to that much. Life goes on. People have kids and all that shit.
Oh yeah, right.
So doing all that, and then looking through, seeing what you have for sale. I ended up buying the first 2 volumes of Cerberus for super cheap.
It's awesome.
So I'm really excited to actually like. We talk about like whole gaps in knowledge and like stuff you haven't read. That's a giant one for me. So I'm excited to jump into that at some point. And then picking up the free books, picking up my few other things. It was a fun time just hanging out with people in the comics world and boots to the ground again, Mike. You know, that kind of stuff.
Getting back to normal times. But I think that the thing that disappointed me here was like all the shops around me limited to 3 books. Now,
see, I mean,
which I at least like there was like 5 or 6 that I would have picked up and read, but it's like, man,
I did a post about it on my Substack in lieu of my like crowdfunding one.
Yeah.
And I did say like I'm in there to everybody, like just pick up what you're going to read.
Right.
And don't pick up an extra copy for your cousin. Like,
right.
We all know it's bullshit.
Yeah. Don't do that. Yeah. Don't abuse the system. But I mean, for guys like us, we're going looking for the sales where we end up spending more money on free comic book day than we would spend on a normal day at the comic book shop.
That's true, Mike.
Somehow I'd be like, it was free comic book day. How did I walk away spending over $100? I don't know.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
I always love free comic book day. I always say it's the best day of the year. And I was glad to see it kind of back to somewhat normal.
Cool.
And just hang out with people again.
Yeah.
A quick story, and this is probably gonna mean very little to the audience out there, but I'll give a little bit of background. When our shop first opened, he bought a bunch of stuff to stock the store opening day and all that. And one of these items that he stocked were these busts of Sinestro from the Green Lantern movie.
Oh yeah,
you remember these, Mike?
Yeah, I do.
And every year at Free Comic Book Day, we would put them out and sell them for like $5 or something. Just get them the fuck out of the store.
Nobody would buy them.
Nobody would buy them. Mike, those busts are still there.
Wow.
So I get there and I see them immediately. I'm like, oh, it's the Sinestro bust. That's hilarious. $5, whatever. And I'm standing there talking to somebody, and somebody like walks up to him. It's like, oh man, Sinestro bust. That's really cool. And we all just stop and we're just like sitting there like this, like, oh shit, it's gonna happen.
Someone's gonna buy it.
He did not buy it, which was disappointing, but it gave you this warm, fuzzy feeling because like I remember me and you having that same interaction.
Yep. Like, man, we've been putting these out every year and nobody wants to buy it. And it's like an ugly bust too. It's not like
it's terrible.
It's like, for a movie that nobody wants to even admit happened.
Yeah. So that was kind of a nice feeling of like, I wish he bought them, but it was a nice feeling of like, man, even as things change, some things just keep staying the same.
Yeah, some things always stay the same. Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. All right, we'll jump into the news. We got the trailer for Boys season 4, and it's about a month away already, so that's pretty sick. The season looks absolutely fucking crazy and bloody as usual. We immediately have Butcher talking about his past life, so probably get a little more glimpse into that. I would think.
I definitely, and I get the feeling that Jeffrey Dean Morgan is playing his father in this.
Yeah,
based on this trailer and kind of some of the hints they have, which is a very interesting dynamic there. Like those two, father son. Yeah,
which is, I feel like neither of them will back down, kind of thing. We see that Homelander being a psycho. Also, there's a divide, a little too real now with the whole like divide and protesting and people punching each other. And we see a new hero that's been brought on. We see, I believe that was the hero. That was one of the characters from the last show, right? The university show,
Gen V show.
Yes, yeah. So we see a couple of those heroes showing up.
I believe so. And I don't know. I talk a lot about like the politics being like a little more subtle.
Yeah.
This show is putting it right in your face, man.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. There's
And they always have, so I don't mind it. And it's not like it's so in your face that you feel like you're being preached to. It almost feels like they're just talking down to everybody on the show, and it's great.
We see Mother's Milk, and he looks very scrawny. So I don't know if that's the actor is having health issues, or that's specifically for the show. Is like maybe he's waning and needs some mother's milk. Like, is something going on with his like souped up powers or something? I don't know.
Well, there's also a talk about like a virus to kill all the soups in this,
right?
And I almost wonder if like he's kind of, or if the group as a whole is like going away from using
the
compound V.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite part of this whole trailer though is that right there.
Yeah, the souped up farm animals. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that looks insane. Like the sheep that they're running from, it looks amazing. There's the fight scene with the chicken where they're like shooting it and the bullets don't do anything.
Yeah, it looks just as crazy and out there as it always has.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know a whole lot more to say other than I cannot wait for it to come. But June is going to be very jam packed.
Oh yeah, because then we got because it was Star Wars Day also on yesterday, on the 4th. They got a new trailer for the Star Wars Acolyte, which I watched this morning, which looks insane. I'm very happy to kind of see that. I don't believe we're really getting any like hard continuity stuff, which for somebody like me, unless you could just prove me wrong here. I mean, as far as like the grand universe, like I understand where we are, but it's not like characters that we should know about already, right?
No, I think it's important that the show be good to new people, because it is dealing in the High Republic, and while the High Republic's been around for 5 years now,
right?
Not most fans are not reading the comics or not reading the novels. Like,
right.
It's just a fact. So they built this groundwork in the comics and novels, and now they're bringing it to the TV show. I mean, I recognize a few characters, but I don't. Hopefully, they do a good job of introducing them.
Yeah,
and it does seem like it seems like they're even going a little bit before where the High Republic stuff in that space began, to kind of tell almost the origin. So it'll be interesting to see how right I am on that or wrong. But
it is cool to see Trinity from the Matrix becoming a Jedi.
Yeah, and I also like that they're going really hard on some of the kung fu stuff in this too. Like it seems like a lot of like fight sequences throughout. The Sith is an awesome design. Like,
yeah, I like that Master Soul guy. He seems like a really cool character.
Yeah, I'm super excited for this show.
No, it looks great. The visuals look great, very cinematic. The lightsaber battles look cool. Like you said, it looks very kung fu-esque. And then we see like maybe a fallen, well, not a fallen Jedi, but somebody's let off the path and now has become this evil force.
Yeah, and I won't say, but like there's been a constant like bad group. Like, I mean, it's Star Wars, so it's Republic versus Empire and all that, but they have their own version of that in the High Republic. And I almost think that the way that these trailers have been going, I'm getting the feeling that this is the build up to like when that bad group kind of rises and becomes a threat right before. It's not much of a spoiler because it's in the first novel they ever put out is basically a terrorist attack on this big like space station that the Jedi had by that group. And that's kind of what the catalyst for the High Republic like story arc to go. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. No, I mean, it got me excited about Star Wars stuff after watching the trailer.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Did you watch any Star Wars for Star Wars Day?
I did not. I was actually at a bar last night and they had Star Wars on, so they had A New Hope on, so I did watch a little bit of that at the bar.
I watched the new trilogy, so 7, 8, and 9, because I haven't watched them in a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
by the time you got to 9, you're like, what the fuck am I watching?
Dude, 7 and 8, I still really enjoy. Like, really good movies.
I love 7. I've seen 7 like 25 times.
7's phenomenal. Like, I remember I was sitting there, I was watching it with somebody, and just like recapping that night, that the midnight release of that, and like being so happy because even though it's a remake, they did it right.
Yeah.
And then when episode 8 came out, and I came out of that thinking like, this is like Star Wars fans gonna love this. It feels so much like a modern twist on like what Empire Strikes Back was, just done very differently. And then like the fan base just blowing up over it.
Yeah.
And then watching 9 being like, what a fucking disaster that was.
It was just like a tug of war match between directors.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, that's all it became.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited for this for sure.
Definitely. Star Wars content's been really good. So
yeah, I really like the Ahsoka show for sure.
Yeah.
X-Men 97 episode 8. I have not watched any more of that, but I know you've been chugging along with it.
Yeah, so basically Sentinel human zombies start attacking.
Interesting.
So the guy behind everything, like, has the guy who created the Sentinels. We find fucking, this is comic book shit right here, and I love it. We find out that he was in the womb made to be part Sentinel by Nimrod in the future, who came back.
Okay.
And so that's why he was always obsessed with like machines and created the Sentinels.
Interesting.
Weird shit. And then he creates this virus that he can basically transform people into being like part Sentinel.
Okay.
So he can activate them as like almost like Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Boom,
like sleeper agents. Yeah.
There you go, sleeper agents. And this is kind of the story of, so we get that backstory, and then it happens, and like we also see that he has Magneto like tied up to his like sex dungeon thing. Nice. And Magneto gets free. All of the mutants across the world are fighting these like people that are also Sentinels and trying to figure that all out. Amazing scene where Nightcrawler gets his swords.
Oh, that's
cool. We see like swashbuckling Nightcrawler.
Yeah.
And then Magneto is just like, this is fucking done. And he sends a pulse that takes out all the electronics across the world, basically an EMP pulse.
Yeah.
And like just takes the whole grid down, but also destroys all the Sentinels.
That's cool.
Amazing episode. Wow. Part 1 of I'm assuming 2-part episodes. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah, show's so good.
Nice.
And dude, when I'm watching it, when it first comes on, that theme song hits.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm like 8 years old again.
It brings me back. Yeah.
That's
awesome. Delicious in Dungeon episode 18. I watched the last episode. That was pretty serious when they were fighting the dragon friend, but I have not watched this episode yet.
You'll like this one. It gets a little bit lighter. So they come across, they're trying to get through the dungeon and everything. Yeah. They find this other area and they come across mimics. But not like D&D mimics, although they dealt with that earlier in the season.
Yeah, they did.
But these are like people that can transform into creatures that can transform into anything.
Oh, okay.
So they end up mimicking the group. So there's 4 of every character.
Oh, damn.
And the whole episode is them trying to figure out like who's the real one, who's the fake
That's
one.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
The last couple that are left, they can't figure it out. So their whole strategy is we'll cook to figure out who is the real one.
That's funny.
And that's basically the episode. And it turns out to be like a Nine-Tails fox that was the creature that was doing the illusion magic to make that happen.
Interesting.
They defeat him, and just a fun, lighthearted episode after that very heavy episode.
Heavy, gruesome episode. Yeah. That was a wild one before that. So I love that show. And now you watched Crisis on Infinite Earths Part 1. I gotta watch Part 2. I have it. I just have to watch it. So what did you think?
Part 2 just came out. I really liked it. It's different enough from like actual Crisis.
Yep.
That it's interesting. And I just thought they did a good job of like bringing in these other characters, other versions of characters throughout that are familiar, but like giving them their own feel, like having 90s Aquaman with no arm.
Yeah, love that.
be like his own planet where global warming took over and Atlantis rules. Stuff like that. Animation is what it is. I'm kind of sick of talking about it because it's just not going to change.
It'll never be as good as we want it to be.
Yeah, but the story's cool. I liked how it ended. It really is funny that this feels like just a standalone movie,
right?
But like to those that know Crisis, know there's so much more.
Yeah, there's a lot more coming.
Yeah, and it got me interested in continuing it. I was surprised how much I enjoyed it.
Yeah, for someone like me that watched the part 1 so long ago, I might have to rewatch it before I watch part 2. Yeah, or just wait for part 3 and watch them all in a row now. I don't know.
Yeah, and I was thinking of like, oh, part 2's out, I can rent it or something.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, it's gonna come to Max eventually.
Yeah, it will eventually. But
I was looking it up, like Godzilla vs. Kong comes out digitally soon. -1 comes out digitally this week.
Yep. I think you can rent it now on Amazon or something.
Yeah, and it's gonna be free on Amazon at the weekend. Yeah. And then that new movie that I really want to see because I'm such a Jerry Seinfeld fan, Unfrosted, comes out this week.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I forgot he had something coming out.
Yeah, and of course Jerry Seinfeld Pop-Tart movie. Why not?
Yeah.
With Bill Burr as JFK.
Yep, that's awesome.
Yeah, there's so much stuff coming out that like I'm not gonna pay for.
Rental. I watched a couple horror movies this weekend. There are a couple Shudder exclusives that like streaming service. I watched the one with Nick Cage. I can't remember. It was like the name of it was like the Adonis or something like that. But it was basically like a really low budget post-apocalyptic fighting like aliens or something. But it was interesting. I mean, it was really low budget. The aliens were really creepy and the CGI was bad, but Nicolas Cage is great. And then the next one I watched actually had David Dastmalchian in it, the writer of Count Crowley.
Okay.
And the actor from like Ant-Man. Yep, Ant-Man, Batman, right? Oh no, Polka Dot Man. Sorry, he is Polka Dot Man now in the DC universe. But it's Late Night with the Devil. It was like a low budget horror, an hour and a half long, but he plays like a Conan O'Brien, so he's like a talk show host. So he's the main character. He does a fantastic job as a talk show host. Like if I didn't know who he was, I would think, oh, this dude's a talk show host. Like his mannerisms and everything. And basically, like, he's trying to get more viewers and become like the top late night host. So he brings on like a couple people that deal with like a psych, because it's a Halloween episode. So this is like this movie revolves all around that episode of like he brings on a psychic, he brings on a girl who came from a cult and was possessed, and they try to like bring out the demon live and like, you know, to get viewers, and like shit goes wrong. But there's also part of it is this interesting thing. He belongs to it was like a group of men in Hollywood, and I forget what it's called, the Ranch or something like that, where all of these men like would get together and like go to this resort in the woods and just like you know, do all this crazy shit. So in the movie it shows them like in hoods, like doing weird like occult like worshiping and shit. And I guess that was like a real thing like politicians would go to in like in Hollywood. And so like they kind of like rope that into the movie because it's like the 1970s. It's really good. I mean, it's low budget horror, but they did a great job. A lot of practical effects. It felt like you were watching a 70s movie. And the cool thing about it is they like shorten the aspect ratio to make it seem like you're watching a 1970s film, it was really cool. And like all of the moments when they're not, because like it's all live, like, you know, they're broadcasting live on a talk show. The moments that aren't live, that are like outside of the, like that are just happening off air or in black and white, which is really cool. So they did some really cool stuff with the film. It was really cool. I highly recommend it. And it wasn't that scary. I'd say it's more of like suspenseful. You'd probably like it, Chris. I wouldn't say it's not that scary.
Interesting. I'll have to check it out. I'm trying to remember the name of the cult because as soon as you said it, I'm like, yeah, I know about that. And then
it was called the Ranch or something. I can't remember.
The actual one that they're accused of.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's been videos and stuff. I don't know how real it is. I'm not gonna pretend to like have all the facts, but I've heard the stories about it.
But they kind of like roped that into the story, which was interesting. they kind of touch on it. And there was, a couple things related to that time in the 1970s. But overall, it's a really good movie. And I think it's got really high rating on Rotten Tomatoes right now. It's like 97% or something like that. But good for the small chin to be like, because, to be like a main character, like lead in something is awesome.
Definitely. I shouldn't have typed in politicians and cults because all I got was the MAGA cult, the MAGA cult, the MAGA cult.
Yeah.
We get it.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
You're going to see a lot more of that. But yeah, I highly recommend the movie. It's really good. And the stuff they do cinematography wise is really good.
Very cool.
I thought it was a lot of smart stuff going on there. So highly recommend it. Comic book news. So interesting announcement from Marvel. They announced a new crossover title, Infinity Watch, that will be told over 9 annuals, starting with Thanos Annual 2024, number 1. Okay, I'm just going to read the description. We'll just talk about my reservations. The saga will follow up on previous Infinity Stone stories with the return of recent bearers, including Star, Overtime, Prince of Power, Quantum, and Multitude, as well as introduce you to the new Mind Stone bearer for the first time, as they deal with their godlike powers, mistrust from their peers, Thanos, fresh off his own dramatic transformation, and Christopher Campbell's recent Thanos limited series begins a bloody march to claim his dark destiny once more. So interesting to make a crossover across annual books. Does this mean they're going to charge more for each of these books, Chris? That's my question. We can charge $8 now for all of these?
Marvel does this all the time. I know. It's not really a new idea. Here's the thing, Mike. It has the word infinity in it.
Yeah.
So I'm buying it.
Oh yeah, of course. And so we see the books there. It's starting with Thanos, Amazing Spider-Man, Immortal Thor, Miss Marvel, Wolverine, Incredible Hulk, Moon Knight, Spider-Boy, and Avengers. Interesting.
So, unfortunately, I have to have a Spider-Boy book in my collection, but I'll live.
Yeah.
I don't know why I get sucked into like the annual crossover because they never go well.
Yeah.
I can't think of one that's like really great.
No.
But I'm just such a sucker for Infinity stuff and I did already order the Thanos annual, like not realizing it was this big Infinity thing.
That's funny.
I buy every Thanos book.
Yeah.
And then they announced that's part of this.
I didn't even know they had Infinity heroes or like Infinity characters.
Yeah, all the Infinity Stones have like been embedded in people. If you remember, do you remember when you're reading Guardians by Lansing Kelly?
Yeah.
And there was that weird issue where they went to Earth to get like Drax's soul, his human soul.
Yep.
And they went to that was one of the characters that was like they had the Soul Stone. Yeah.
Okay. And
they were like were the physical embodiment of the Soul Stone.
I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, the Infinity Stones are weird, man. But we'll see. I'll talk about them as they come out. I will be reading them at the very least. But I would prefer just a flat, like, just do something interesting with Infinity, like in a real crossover, please. But
yeah,
get what I can take.
Yeah. No, I mean, cool thing. I think the execution is going to be making other people buy other annuals it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah, they did it last year with like Vengeance, I think it was called. Something of Vengeance, yeah. I was actually thinking about it too when I was like doing all the research for the show. I was like, oh, the Thanos annual I purchased and like this big Infinity thing. And then you said like after Christopher Cantwell's Thanos, I never read the last issue. So I went through my books. I'm like, oh yeah, there it is. Like in my pile of not read yet. So
I want to read this. That's awesome. Yeah. This is pretty cool. Boom Studios announced a new series set in the Firefly universe titled Firefly Versus. The series will be written by Ryan Perot with art by Lalit Kumar Sharma. This is pretty cool because I don't know how often they do this, but they're exploring an alternate timeline that begins with a simple question. What if Browncoats had won? Fans will be delighted to discover a bold new vision of the familiar crew of Serenity as their fates continue to intertwine in strange and surprising ways, because while the Alliance was defeated in the universe remains a dangerous and mysterious place. it's almost time for me to like rewatch Firefly because I really do love the show. And there's so many comics out there that it's cool to see that they're still doing stories. And I think this is an interesting route to do like a what if story. But
yeah, I like that more people are doing what if stories. Like even Marvel's like done what if aliens. And like
yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I'm waiting for what if Star Wars. Like it's coming. I know
it's gonna happen for sure.
I always like the what if thing. Firefly, I never got into. Like I watched the first episode and that was it. And then somebody took me to see the movie. Wasn't there a movie called like Serenity or something?
Yep, there was a movie. Yep.
And I watched that, and I remember just being confused because I didn't watch the TV show.
Yep.
So I have very little opinion on Firefly because I never.
Yeah, at the time when I was reading the comics back in college, I had like freshly watched the show and movie. Now it's been like 10, 15 years plus. I don't know, 10 to 15, but it's been a while for sure.
So funny story that kind of like ties into that and then can get us into our next segment. I found a Blu-ray of Gatchaman.
Wow.
So coming in the mail is a Blu-ray of the entire series of Gatchaman, which I then found out was like almost 100 episodes.
Holy crap. That's crazy.
So yeah.
Wow. You're going to be busy.
Yeah.
That was the one thing I do wish I got to read this week, and I'm sure you can tell me about it, is the Gatchaman Free Comic Book Day issue.
Yeah, we will talk about it, yes.
Okay. All right, let's talk about what we read this week. And I'm going to start off with probably one of the top 5 books of the year, Chris, already. Space Ghost, number 1. Hell yeah. He knew what I was talking about. David Papose, Jonathan Lau's art. First off, Jonathan Lau, man. Fuck. That art.
Dude.
Why is Space Ghost going so hard this year? That was amazing art.
I said it in my review, and I meant it in the best way possible, and hopefully people took it that way.
Yeah.
This art's too good for Space Ghost.
Yeah. I didn't expect to read a Space Ghost book and be like, wow, what is that? Like, this is amazing. First issue, I think it's a great first issue. If you're not even a Space Ghost fan, just read this fucking issue. He rescues this pair of kids that are like, they're lost their colony. They have some, their father was like the scientist. They have some like rare thing that he was working on. And now like, they're like, we have nowhere to go. Space Ghost is like, all right, we're going to my place, the Ghost Planet. It was way more serious than I thought. Like when he shows up, it's like a Batman rescue scene. Really cool stuff. The kids that he's saved, I think it's an interesting storyline of like, there might be some like bigger thing going on where everybody's after this technology that he finds. That was a great first issue. I'm in. Like this was it.
Did you ever watch the old cartoon?
No, I never did.
Okay, those kids are his sidekicks.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And then it's been a week, everybody had a chance to read it. So
yeah,
fuck off. But when Brack shows up, I lost it.
Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, because I know he's the villain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just throughout it, like he throws in a few references to the Brack show. And or at least one reference, and then he throws in, I think, another reference to Coast. Yeah. So I was just like, dude, Propose's having fun.
Yeah.
But he takes it serious. Like it feels like sci-fi Batman.
Yeah.
And in like all the best ways.
Yeah.
I'd love this issue. I'm so excited for more.
Yeah. I read Green Lantern War Journal number 8. This book, we're still going along here. John Stewart finds all these like refugees in this like place in between where he is. He sees this guy that's kind of like, he basically says to John Stewart, like, if you die, all the horrors of the Dark Star will be released. And then the guy, the Green Lantern from the alternate universe, actually gets Guy Gardner's help. And Guy Gardner has the Book of Oa, which has all these answers that he needs hidden in his closet somewhere. So I guess we'll see more. I'm going to save Blood Hunt for after. Superman House of Brainiac special number 1 was sick. There's a few storylines going on here. So if you didn't read like the Amanda Waller stuff recently, like she's been working with this council. It's revealed that the council is all these Brainiacs. She kind of severs the tie with Brainiac and is like, okay, well, I know you're a piece of shit, so I'm not going to work with you. We see there's like this side story that Mark Russell wrote, which is somewhat political, which is classic Mark Russell stuff, where Perry White's running for mayor. There's this divide with like, people don't like the aliens now that the superheroes like Superman's gone and stuff. So that's, it's creating a divide on the ground there. I think overall it's a good issue.
The Perry story is Trump versus Biden.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Because Perry's just like putzing around and occasionally says something, and I'm just like, okay, like it's Trump versus Biden. I get it.
And yeah, he's like, well, what kind of candidate are you? Because some people stick to one thing and run with it, or some people are just so over exuberant that everybody follows them, and it's like, it's like you're not really one of those guys. And then the guy that comes in the bar and is like, Garrett Blake for mayor, losers, and then he leaves. Just like so it was an interesting story. I do like the series. I like this Brainiac event. I'm interested to see what he's doing or where he's going with it, because the first part, he like, it's like Brainiac talking about how he went after, Superman, but he also went after the immortality of the people that where Lobo comes from, the Zarnia.
Yeah.
And so we also see a glimpse of his weakness. He left that planet alive because he felt bad. So we do know Brainiac does have some sort of compassion or weakness, which is interesting stuff.
I like this because it was a lot of good info.
Yep.
And like somewhat important to like the moving forward. But at the same time, I felt like you could skip it and it wouldn't really matter.
Yeah, really. For sure. Let's see. It started Annihilation. That's good. It's a lot of like building up the first few issues. That's all I got through so far. And then the last book I had this week that I got to read was Blood Hunt #1, Chris.
So before you start,
there
is a Blood Hunt free comic book day issue.
Okay.
And what I will tell everybody is it's just the first 4 pages of Blood Hunt.
That's one of the things all these books that are coming out. Yeah, I had a feeling that they were going to, okay.
There's also, I'll talk about it next week because I didn't want to read them back to back.
Yeah.
Marvel put out a Blood Hunt Red Band edition.
Oh.
And it's just an R rate. It's a hard R version of this book. So there's literally 2 versions of this story going on at the same time.
That's pretty sick.
And one just like hard R.
Yeah.
So I read the regular one, which I think is what you're about to talk about.
Yeah, I didn't have the Red Band one, but I'll say like my main takeaways of this are the overpowered, souped up vampire crew that takes on the Avengers was sick. Mm-hmm. That whole scene was, I love that these guys are just like overpowered. They're like toying with the Avengers. T'Challa sacrificing himself, which will probably come back as a vampire at some point. Vampires attacking every city everywhere. Thor getting a fucking spike through his head was awesome. That was a really cool scene. And then we found out Blade was the one that betrayed him. He shows up and he stabs Doctor Strange through the heart, which was like, oh shit, Blade's on the bad side. He's with the vampires. So that was a twist because like everybody's like, oh, vampire crossover event. The Blade's going to be the main guy fighting the vampires. Like, he's a bad guy. Or at least we see that in the first issue. I really liked it. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a blast. I mean, it did a good job of starting off. I think it could have done a little bit better of like keeping the pacing going, but for the most part, I really enjoyed it. And I liked some of because I read pretty much everything Jed's doing.
Right.
And he references stuff from Moon Knight, like that cult that Blade's now running is like something that happened in Moon Knight like 2 years ago.
Okay. Yeah.
So when they're referencing that, I was like, oh man, because like that was a big deal that Moon Knight killed the leader and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff here, and I'm really excited because next week is the Dracula issue. So
yeah,
I'm immediately with that twist at the end. I'm like, what's Dracula doing?
We got to find out where he is. Yeah, and of course they leave him out in the first issue.
Yeah.
But I'm
He's talked about a lot, though.
Yeah, he is. They're like, where is he?
Because everybody just assumes, oh, vampires. What
vampires,
the fuck?
Dracula?
Come on, Dracula.
Yeah, they're like, no, he's not around. I'm like, what the fuck? No, it's really cool.
Something from last week was Star Wars Darth Maul, Black, White, and Red.
Mm-hmm.
Really good. This is an anthology book. What I found interesting about this issue, it's the first time I can think of where this whole issue is just a one-shot story. It's
That's
not
cool.
multiple stories.
Yeah, it's not broken up.
Yeah, it's basically a story about Maul going on this mission for the Emperor, and it basically being the Emperor toying with him, and like him kind of coming to the conclusion, like, oh, the Emperor's a piece of shit, and kind of where like Vader ends up near the end of his saga. And yeah, it was just a fun action sequence, but there is like a meaning behind it where Maul is just kind of mulling over like, hey, what's going on? No pun intended there.
I was like, damn, good one.
So yeah, you talked about the rest. So Barbaric, Born in Blood, #1.
Oh shit, yeah, I forgot that
is out.
Yep.
So good to be back with Barbaric.
Nice.
They do a really great like recap in the beginning. That's an illustrated recap where like the Axe is drunk and he can't remember like who people are and what's going on. So Owen has to like explain it to him.
That's awesome.
It was really funny how it was done. And then we just get right into the story. Like we're right where everything left off, and they end up fighting this group and finding this other like village that Owen knows because his people were supposed to be protecting the village. But since Owen's departure from this, his tribe, they decided no longer to protect them. So these people hate barbarians, blah, blah, blah. And Owen's like, I'm going to fix this because there's somebody on top of the mountain that's like doing shit to them and ruining their lives. So he's going to go out and do it. And to prove like himself to these people or whatever.
Yeah.
There's a funny sequence where like they're standing outside the mountain and Owen's just like, why is it always the top of the mountain? Like, why can't they evil people put their base at like the base of the mountain or like maybe in the middle of the mountain?
That's funny.
And it's just really great to be back in this world. Like some of the things that happen along the way, a character we meet later on that's kind of the cliffhanger at the end was really fun.
Cool.
Everybody read Barbaric.
Yeah, it's so good.
I don't know how many times I gotta say it.
I know.
Absolute Power #1,
Nice.
Free Comic Book Day edition.
Yep. Catch me up on this.
Clock King's in it. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, he's in the crew.
Book, right?
Yeah, he's in the crew. Yeah. Yep.
So what's the robot Batman's name again?
Failsafe.
Failsafe is running this like facility that's basically like the new Task Force X. And they're bringing people in to do some experiment for Amanda Waller. And Clock King's entire job is to like bring the new person in and give them a tour. So he has this guy that's basically Electro, like his electric powers. And they're bringing this tour, and we find out that basically Amanda Waller is sacrificing these soups or villains, but to try to make something happen. And we don't quite know what that is, but like I have an idea it has something to do with Amazo and Failsafe and because of everything that's going on. It was interesting. Like we got to see kind of the players involved. We got to see that Amanda Waller is still a piece of shit. Like,
Yep. Classic.
Yeah. It got me excited for this event. I'll say that. And
cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. And there's a great sequence at the end where Amanda has a precog and she's trying to like get them to tell her what the future is. And the precog sees that like she has all the soups and chains.
Yeah.
So do you remember I know there's a better example of this, but have you ever seen the Simpsons episode where the aliens take over and they've got like Homer and all them in chains, like hitting the rocks?
Yeah.
It's that, but it's like Batman, Superman, Flash.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, if you're interested in that event, check that out. I'm sure it's free digitally as well. And then I got to read Gatchaman #0. Nice. This has 3 short stories from all 3 books that are coming out in the next few months. I think it's a lot of fun. Like it's cool. It's weird, like anime stuff. but it's superhero-y. They all have like bird. Their nicknames come from birds. So like one's an owl, one's like a peregrine falcon, and so on and so forth. They all have some sort of vehicle they use. All the vehicles merge.
Yep.
Like, and it's very classic cartoon where like the bad guy for some reason has an army and the army is going to invade this city. So they have to come in and save them.
Yep.
And then like, you'll enjoy, I'm sure it's not as good as our guests Kung Fu today, but there's a lot of like ninjutsu and Kung Fu throughout it. Cause they're not like superheroes. They're just ninjas that have advanced technology.
Yeah. That's cool.
So yeah, it got me really excited for Gatchaman. Like, I think he's got a cool book here, and then the 2 side books seem interesting. Like they seem more like getting you up to date with who the characters are, because none of us know who these characters are for the most part. So it really did seem like these are who these people are. They're gonna be important for the main book.
Nice.
And then I had 2 trades. So I finished 2 trades this week. I'd been reading them over like a month. But I got Star Trek Volume 1, Godshock by Lanzig and Kelly.
Yep.
So I was tasked by Lanzig to read this, and I did. It's good. It deals with I'm forgetting his name, but the captain the captain from Deep Space Nine.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The Black Picard.
Okay. Yep.
But he died and then came back to life. Something weird happened, and he has like this vision from these gods that he has to go and like do this mission, and it seems to take place at the end of like all these series where like the time cuts off. So he goes to Picard and says like, listen, they all think I'm crazy. I need you to stand up for me and be like, hey, let him do this thing. He's trustworthy. So Picard does, but he says, I'll only do it if you let Data go along with you.
Okay.
So Data becomes the co-captain or whatever the hell they call it.
Okay, yep.
And then at some point Worf comes on board, and then Worf leaves, and that starts like a side book called Star Trek Defiant, I guess. And it's them finding out that the Klingons have been going around and like destroying these godlike entities. And like Q's involved, not that Q, the Q from Star Trek.
Yeah, the Q Star Trek guy. Yep.
And all this other stuff. It's very interesting because it's much, from what little Star Trek knowledge I know, it feels more biblical.
So Q was from like the first season of Next Generation.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a reoccurring like villain.
Yeah, but it seems to deal a lot with like higher beings and gods.
Yeah, he's like a god. He's almost like a god. That's how they treat him, is like he's above everyone else.
Yeah. So like one of the things they find is like this giant planet-like structure, but it's a being. It's a godlike being that's on like par with Q and everything. And that's where like kind of the big fight happens with the Klingons. And that's when like Worf has to make a decision, because like Worf's kid is with the Klingons while Worf's with the Federation. But there's a lot of like intrigue going on back and forth.
Interesting.
It's really good. I'm gonna probably continue reading it. If you have Comixology Unlimited, the first like 20 issues of just Star Trek are free, and the first 8 or 9 of Defiant are free.
Cool.
So yeah, take that for what you will.
That's awesome. I gotta check it out.
Yeah. And then I finally finished 14 issue graphic novel trade paperback of George Perez's Wonder Woman.
Nice.
It's definitely like a reboot of Wonder Woman back in the 80s.
Yeah.
And George like kind of taking it from the beginning. So it is like the whole like woman made out of clay and blah, blah, blah. And this is where the Amazons came from. And digging deeper into the gods and their whole part in this. And kind of the full circle of this is like you start with the Hercules has like a villain arc where he goes after the Amazons before Wonder Woman's around. And by the end, like he is kind of redeemed, even though the thing he did isn't really redeemable, but like, fuck it, he's redeemed. And you get to meet all the characters you want. It's all the Amazons. Wonder Woman shows up. Cheetah's a villain at one point. Like, it's really like 14 issues of building her to be to the point where she's in man's world permanently. And Yeah, it's really good. Obviously, the art's phenomenal. It's fucking George Perez.
Yeah.
Len Wein is a co-writer on it. So the only thing I'll say is it's not a light read. It's a very heavy read.
Yep.
And that's why it almost took me 2 months to get through. Because
slow
one
burn.
issue is a long time.
Yep.
But a good long time. So
nice. Yeah, I've never read it, but I know that is the one thing. It's a lot. It's a lot to read.
Yeah, and then I found out it's like 5 volumes of this to get through all of it, and like one of the volumes is really hard to find, so that's gonna be fun.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I will probably continue reading it. But I definitely, if you're interested in Wonder Woman, never read Wonder Woman before, it seems like a great place to start. Like it really does just set up everything that you need to know moving forward.
Cool.
So, Mike, that was everything I read this week. Where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me at Fortress Ricker on Twitter. Where can they find you and or the show?
You can find me at Fortress Chris on most social media networks. Also at chriscomicscorner.substack.com. And you can find the show at fortresscomics_ on Twitter. Also at fortresscomicnews.com. If you want to support the show, 5-star reviews on podcatchers, like, subscribe, share, comment down below on the YouTube version, and patreon.com/fortresscomics. So thank you all so much for watching and or listening this week. We'll see you all here next week.
See ya.